What up? What up, podcast party people? Oh, yeah. We're hanging out. Oakland, California. Tuesday. I don't know what day it is. When I got my glasses on, I can't see what the date is. 16th. Something like that. But yeah. Man, what a crazy few weeks it's been. What a crazy few weeks it's been. I'm just getting back into my podcast game. I took a week off, and I feel like I missed a month. I don't know why I feel like that, but I was doing 2 a week, and now I'm just down to 1 a week. But we're getting into summer. You know, I'm going to go wakeboarding on Thursday, so I'm like, what is going on in my chair here? Going to go wakeboarding on Thursday. So it's Tuesdays and Thursdays normally the days that I do it. I do the podcast. It's the easiest days for me for no reason in particular. I could probably do them Tuesday and Wednesday. I don't want to do them on Mondays because just I don't know why. I take Saturday and Sunday off, and Monday just feels it's too early for a podcast. It's too early. I don't know. I just want to have something else. But yeah. So we had, let's see, we're going on week, if you're listening to this in the future, we're going on week 3 of massive global protests about the George Floyd murder all over the world now. New Zealand, Australia, they just had one in Paris that was 60, 70,000 people all over America still. You're not seeing as much coverage here in America anymore because there's no riots, there's no looting. And so I guess the news media doesn't want to cover any of that because I guess 30,000 peaceful protesters marching downtown Oakland or LA or Seattle or any of the, the 50 or 60 protests that are still happening. I guess it's not as exciting. So they're not covering that. But yeah, that shit's still happening. It's still happening out there. You know, people are still fighting the fight. A lot of people. A lot of people are angry. A lot of people are pissed. And now we're starting to see something where, I just read something today happened in Albuquerque, New Mexico. A bunch of armed militia came to confront the protesters. And these aren't, this isn't the police. This is just a group of dudes with a lot of guns and a lot of AR-15s and came, they're just showing up to, I guess, think they're the police. And they ended up shooting a protester. I guess there was a bunch of protesters in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Mayor Tim Keller, who was actually on my podcast not even just 3 months ago, he's the mayor. And I guess they were trying to tear down a statue of someone who was like a slave trader. And these militia guys came in and started a bunch of shit and ended up shooting one of the people. And that's what the protesters are starting to come up against now, is this kind of armed. They're wearing, they're wearing 7 different military garbs. Like they got a Navy patch and an Army patch and a fucking some other thing from some other it's all very military-esque, but it's no real any one thing. It's kind of like if you made when my kid plays Fortnite, and so or Overwatch, and so they kind of make a character and it's got 20 different things that don't really go together, but you're like, hey, it looks cool. It's that kind of a vibe. Because they're not in any type of Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines type of thing. And, yeah, it's fucking crazy times, man. But protests are still going on. In fact, we just had another black man murdered at the hands of police. His name was Rashad. I can't remember his last name, but his name was Rashad. I think I'm saying that right. But he had passed out in the drive-thru of Wendy's, which, not a good thing. He was probably drunk and shouldn't have been driving. But, he passed out. I guess a couple of customers complained and had to, go around him or somehow. And So they called the police on him, and I saw the whole video. It's a 5-minute video of him. He's totally reasonable, like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I'm so fucking embarrassed. I'm sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. And, it just escalated, and the police just kept on pushing this dude's buttons. And why you got so much money? You got $300 in your wallet. Why you got $300? Like fucking $300. Who fucking cares? $300. The fuck are you gonna do with $300? And it escalated, and they ended up getting into a scuffle. He stole one of their tasers. I guess they tried to tase him. He stole it, and then they shot him in the back as he was running away. So it set off a whole fresh wave of protests across America. And I can tell you, having watched that video from 4 different angles, it's fucking hideous. It's fucking hideous. This dude does not deserve to die because he passed out in the drive-thru of a Wendy's. And after 5 minutes of calm, cool, totally going along with the police, conversation, civil conversation, it should not have escalated into something else. And shit's got to change, man. Shit has got to fucking change. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep killing black people. Black people can't keep dying in police altercations. It can't happen. I'm going to be, by the time you're hearing this, it'll be Thursday night, Friday morning. Machine Head will have dropped 2 new songs, one of which I wrote and recorded on the day that I saw the George Floyd murder at the hands of 4 police officers in Minneapolis. I wrote the lyrics in a fucking disgusted rage, and I sang them about an hour later, and I got Jesse from Killswitch involved in the song. We had been talking about collaborating on this song actually for quite some time now, probably almost 9 months. And I sent him the lyrics, sent him the track. He's like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. I love it. I am 100% in. The week before that, I had finished a song that had been floating around. Both of these were recorded with Jared and Carlos Cruz from Warbringer / Power Trip. Or he played in Power Trip. And this was recorded back in December 2018. And, I hadn't really gotten the lyrics down, and I didn't really know where I wanted the songs to go. And just after watching both the Ahmaud Arbery murder, which happened about a week and a half before George Floyd at the hands of a bunch of vigilante white supremacists, and then watching the George Floyd, both those songs got finished within, a couple of days of each of those. And it's out now. So it's out. I'm sure you'll know about this by the time you hear about it, but I figure it's worth mentioning. I've got an awesome guest right now, and we kind of talk about a lot of this stuff. We talk about a lot of this stuff going into everything that is going on in the world, and it doesn't really happen until the end of the talk. But it's crazy times. It is a time of transformation that is unquestionable. This is a time of change. This is the civil rights movement of what happened in 1968. That's what 2020 is. And the change and the upheaval and the uncertainty and the anger and the rage is all very palpable. And as an artist, as a creative, this is what I got to sing about. This is what I got to talk about. This is the most important thing going on in our world now. So I'm lucky enough to have Matt Heafy from Trivium on, and it was great. It was great. Honestly, I haven't talked to Matt for a while. I haven't talked to him in person, or I can't. When they came, the last time they came through, I hung out with them. We hung out all night, but I haven't actually had like a sit down conversation with them in a long while. And this was a really good one. This was a really good one. Really just awesome to talk with a dude who I've known for, God, 16 years now. We took Matt out. They were on the Embers to Inferno record when we took them out for the first time. They were on their debut album. They hadn't even recorded Ascendancy. And we were touring on Through the Ashes of Empires. And they were just good kids, man. Just young, hungry, touring in not a van, but like some kind of van. Basically a van. Just driving all over the U.S. and wanting to, make music for a living. And I could tell that they were going to do something. They were hungry. They were funny. They had a good thing about them. Our fans liked them. Especially in this era where they were like just the new young, they were very young. I think Matt was 18 or 19. He had just graduated high school. It's crazy. And so I think Paolo was even younger than that. So, but yeah, I'm going to play you some songs here. You know what I'm going to do? Actually, I'm going to do the read here first. Today's podcast is brought to you by Nuclear Blast. Nuclear Blast is the premier metal label of our time. It is also brought to you by Gas Digital. Gas Digital is the podcast company which distributes. The reason you are hearing this all over the world is because they are my badass podcast company. And today's show is sponsored by the Ridge Wallet. Ridge Wallet is a light, sleek, and industrial wallet. It doesn't fold or awkwardly bulge in your pocket, and it seriously changed my whole wallet situation, and it did. I rocked their wallet. It's kind of cool. Most people are still using wallets designed in the 90s, carrying around old receipts, gift cards, hotel keys, and an unorganized mess. And you know what? They kind of stepped up the whole thing. They kind of changed the whole game here. It's just got a money clip on the outside, and then it's got an elastic thing which opens up. You stick your cards in. Boom. It holds up to 12 cards, plus room for cash. Comes in over 30 colors and styles, including carbon fiber and burnt titanium. I love it, but don't take my word for it. Listen to the 30,000 five-star reviews. 30,000 five-star reviews. Motherfuckers love this wallet. I don't know if I love a wallet that much, but they got some goddamn good reviews. The durable materials mean each wallet comes with a lifetime warranty. You could buy this one wallet and carry it for the rest of your life. The Ridge team is so confident that you'll like it, they'll let you test drive it for 45 days. You can send it back for a full refund if you don't love it. All right? So check it out. Head over to ridge.com. Again, that's ridge.com. Enter code NFR, and you'll get 10% off today. Again, head over to ridge.com, enter the code NFR, and get 10% off of the Ridge wallet. All right, now I'm going to take you over here. I got a little playlist that I made. Check this shit out. This is the first song that I ever heard. Somebody from Trivium, maybe it was, you know what? I might have got this from Monty Connor. Monty Connor might have sent me a care package when I was on the road, and I believe it had this album, or maybe somebody gave it to me when we toured through Florida, but somehow I got a hold of this before they toured with us, and I remember listening to it going, oh shit, this is pretty fucking heavy. This is the first song that I can remember hearing by Trivium right here. This is Ember to Inferno. And I was like, listen to these motherfuckers. And everybody was like, they're young. They're really young. This is some rockin' stuff. And, you know, back in 2002 or 2003, whenever this came out, I was like, oh, shit, okay. It had a good vibe to it. It was definitely right up our alley, that's for sure. But then, after touring with us, as Matt Heafy would later tell me, he wanted to do an Imperium type song, so he wrote this song. And he came out with this banger right here. And this shit right here, I was like, my jaw was on the floor the first time I heard this shit. I was like, oh, damn. This shit is a banger right here. Classic Trivium. Epic as fuck. Fucking chorus in this song is hard. This chorus right here. Here you go. That's just so heavy right there. Boom. It's alright, that's a banger right there. Right here. This is a song that Matt talks about on this podcast. With some pretty intense lyrics, man. He actually rattles them off, which I was pretty surprised about. I don't think I'd ever realized that this song was about what it was. Riptastic shit right there. This song, though, off their next album, The Crusade, this song's a rocker. This shit's just like a head banger. Oh. That shit's heavy. Heavy, dude. Gonna give you a good taste of where they were gonna go at some point in the future, too. No, this is off of Shogun. This isn't off of The Crusade. Tell you what, and then somewhere in there, they did a Roadrunner United song, Matt Heafy did. He did this shit. And he got King Diamond. Oh. I was a captain on the Roadrunner United thing, and so was Matt. And let me tell you, I was so jealous when he got King Diamond. I was like, motherfucker, you got King Diamond? Oh. He wrote a better song than I could have written. This is great. I could have dug deep into my Merciful Fate riff catalog, though. This shit's sick, though. I see the moon outside with its evil grin, watching the breeze tonight, accusing me of sin. Oh, no, you're gonna die. So good. I mean, Matt Heafy wrote the ultimate Merciful Fate song in 2005. So Merciful Fate. But this right here, when Trivium put this shit out, it was over. Like, this is when they stepped into the fucking big leagues right here. I mean, they were in the big leagues already, but this is when this cemented them. Like, oh shit, I remember Everybody, when they heard this record, was like, oh my God, this is fucking awesome. That shit's hard right there. That riff is so good. This is another really good song off of that record. This song's called Black. Oh yes, love this shit. I'm just playing y'all my favorite Trivium songs right now, basically. Right here's a good one too. I tell you what, every time they play this live, it sounds so fucking good. I'm always amazed at how heavy this sounds live. Banger. Right, here's a good one too. Silence in the Snow. Silence in the Snow. Here, let me get to the song. Tune down to fucking A. On this canvas of light, our palette holds but only one shade tonight. Silence knows air in a wintry chill. I always thought this song had really cool key changes. I always thought the key changes were really interesting. And then back to the up. Silence in the snow. Really good key change. The lost art of key changes. Most bands don't do key. Like, motherfucker, you gotta do key changes. I tell you what, right here. This is a banger off of Sin in the Sentence. Banger. I think this is Corey told me this is his song. Very cool. Great key change. And right here, this song right here, Catastrophist, dude. Get the fuck out of here. This is a fucking rocker. Here, I'll get to that. Right here. You're a catastrophe. The one who's come to devastate. Catastrophe. You stole our innocence. You're a catastrophe. That's a banger, and this one, the Defiance. Very pissed off. Banger. If you have not heard the new Trivium record, do yourself a favor, because it is a certifiable masterpiece. Masterpiece. Can't wait to see this shit live. One day. Tell you what, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one and only super talented, awesome gamer, ridiculous guitar player, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Heafy from Trivium. Matt Heafy.
Mr. Flynn.
Are you throwing a batch?
I was explaining throwing a batch the other day, and everyone just looked at me like, at least you know.
Please explain throwing a batch to all of the No Fucking Regrets listeners.
Yep. All right. So in 2005 was when we got the tour with Machine Head. It was Machine Head, Chimera, and Trivium, and we explained the bass player that we had a couple tours before that. I won't say what tour or bass player, just in case I don't want to out him.
No names. We don't need names.
But a couple of things he would do, he'd always make this sound, be like, ugh. And we're like, what? It's kind of like a stretching sound, like, ugh. Like that's kind of sound that would generally encompass like either something good, something bad. He'd say that's beat a lot. You walk into a venue, if it's sucked, like, ugh, this is beat. So he had a couple things. We're like, this is pretty interesting. Back then, Denny's was like splurging for us. That was like our fancy restaurant that we'd go to whenever we had a couple bucks in our pocket. He'd call it Denny's for some reason, like Brian Dennehy. He'd be like, let's go to Denny's. And he would also mention, he's like, I'm going to go throw a batch at this day room. We're like, wait, what the hell does that mean? It's like, I'll try to find words to navigate around. Basically, pull in your pud. That's the line I've been using since.
Jerking off.
Yeah, I'll tell my son, I'll be like, here, stop pulling your pud, dude. But yeah, so throwing a batch would be his term. And Machine Head and Trivium, we've been joking about this since 2005, and it's incredible.
When you told us this story, we were on tour in 2005 on the Through the Ashes tour, and you told us that story, and it was the funniest fucking thing. And for the whole entire tour, I agree. This is beat throwing a batch, Denny's. And even today,
it's like so
when
good.
we text each other, like,
this is beat. But can also be good sometimes. Sometimes, I'm not sure.
It could be good.
I think so. Yeah, maybe it's always kind of bad.
Like a hot chick comes up and he's like,
But yeah, that dude was a character. We had a lot of characters. We actually had the Wizard on that tour as well that we had to fire like week one. Do you remember the Wizard, the sound guy we had?
No.
Okay.
On that tour with us?
Yeah.
I was trying to remember. What was that? Was that a Road Rage? Was that the Chimera?
That was a Road Rage tour.
Okay. Yeah.
So you guys, Chimera, and we did have the Wizard. We had him for like a week, and we had to fire him.
That was 2004 then, right? That was summer 2004.
Yeah, maybe Road Rage was 2004. Maybe it was the end.
I want to say in 2005. I think we toured Devil Driver, and I don't remember you guys being on that tour for some reason.
Maybe it was 2004 because our first tour ever was first U.S. tour ever was supporting Iced Earth. No, it was supporting God Forbid. It was God Forbid, Scars of Tomorrow, Trivium, and the second tour was Iced Earth, Trivium, Beyond the Embrace. Then it was Machine Head, Chimera, Trivium. So it had to have been 04, like the end of 04.
Yeah, like August, something like that. Yeah, so I had just had my first son right before, like a couple of weeks before that tour started. And so, I was coming off of like, oh my God, I haven't slept in 3 weeks now because he never wanted to sleep, and then came in and it's funny because we were talking about that earlier, that you have got 2 kids now and how much it consumes. I mean, so much of your life is just consumed by having they're 3 now.
They're 19 months.
19 months. I said almost 2. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. And how crazy it is. And so this was, I think I did a few more tours. I was on tour for almost 8 months after that, after I had Xander, but then we took a break to write The Blackening. And I, as I was thinking about when we were texting back and forth, how, I got to plan everything I do around taking naps, or the kids taking naps, and, when they get fed or whatever. And we were trying to work it out. And it's interesting to me because I had Xander, and then right before The Blackening dropped, I had Wyatt. And so writing The Blackening was all through that. And then you now in between, or maybe partway through Sin in the Sentence, or you partway through the touring cycle, you had your kids, right? But you still toured after that.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was like we planned to have one, and if it was one kid, I would have been able to get to this tour we were on. That it was Trivium, Avatar Light the Torch, and it was like our biggest and best North American tour. Like North America took us like 9 records or 8 records to finally get into us, and finally we have this awesome tour. And then it was twins, so I had to leave early, and I randomly had to leave in Fargo one night. And I told everybody I gotta go, and luckily my friend Jared Dines, the YouTuber, was out. He'd been playing like 3 or 4 songs with us, so he's like, I can learn the rest of the set over this day off. And then Johannes from Avatar and Howard Jones and Paulo and Corey and Jared all filled in. So it was like these 5 dudes filling in my parts, kind of like what we did with we did that on a Black Crusade as well. Yes. I remember we had to do something like that where we had a bunch of guitar players all learning parts, and so we pulled that off. And so I missed part of the tour. We had tours, or we didn't actually have any tours set up. It wasn't because of the kids, but it was just randomly that we didn't have anything else planned. So I had a ton of time with my kids. And then, and we're about to start gearing up for our next cycle, a global pandemic happens. So I've only, what's crazy, because my dad was a Marine, so he missed out, like not missed out, but he was deployed for the first several years of my life, which I don't remember him being away or anything. I only remember the times he was around. But I've only missed 3 months of their 19 months of life, which is crazy for a touring musician.
That's amazing.
Just randomly timed out that way. Yeah, I've been really lucky with that. I don't know how that happened, but it just did.
I had Wyatt, and then 3 weeks later started the Blackening tour cycle, which you may recall was 3 years and 3 months. So it's like I missed so much. That touring cycle
was crazy.
It was fucking. I don't even. I mean, like I look back, my wife just wanted to divorce me pretty much the entire time. Just like, why? Where are you? Like you've been gone for 3 fucking years. I'm like, look, sorry.
I think I had more time with you than your wife did on the Blackening.
You did. I saw you more than my fucking wife.
Yeah.
The thing that was interesting to me though, as I was thinking about that, was that some people consider that to be one of my best records, and some people consider your new album to be one of your best records. And I wanted to ask you about because I felt, at least for me, that time in between having my first son and then releasing the Blackening, I had 2 kids, and it did really change. I really felt it changed the way I looked at the world. Like my whole worldview, so much of, even just fatherhood in general changes that, because you're now going from, kind of everything's about you, or everything's about you and your wife or your girlfriend or whatever. But now you've got these 2 little creatures who are, if you were number 1 to your wife before kids, you're now like number 8,
yep.
in the importance level. And I was just wondering, like, what was your experience with that? And did you have that same?
I think you mentioning it, that definitely makes a lot of sense, because now there's been 2 people that have mentioned that to me. Another one of my friends, Stephen Hill, who's a writer, he said he felt like this our new album wouldn't have been what it is without me having had kids before it. And then now you saying the same thing. And if I think about it, it has to be that way, because both of our bands, we've always been very concerned with the world, with ourselves. We put exactly how we feel into our music, which is so great, because so many bands don't, and so many genres don't. And I feel even at times metal will kind of neglect that, where punk and hardcore never really do. But bands like Machine Head and Trivium and bands like Fit for an Autopsy, who are metal, like they're in the metal realms now, but they kind of came from hardcore a little bit too. Like, because I was talking to Will yesterday about this stuff. So yeah, having children really makes you think so differently. Like, even like down to weekends, like Ashley and I we've been binge watching. We don't normally watch dramatic TV, but since the world's been shut down, we've been wanting to watch dramatic things. The first things we watched were like Chernobyl and Joker and Parasite, where normally all we ever used to watch was like Parenthood and The Office and Seinfeld, just to feel good. But since these intense things like make it kind of take the pressure off of it. But we're sitting there and I was like, we're watching Last Kingdom and Vikings, and I was like, oh, the music to Vikings is really good, but we can't really hear it. So even during nap time, like we'll never be able to watch a movie at full volume ever again. Like, it's like, even when our kids are older, we're not going to want to wake them up. But before, we used to like crank the speakers and stuff, and like we'd be watching movies, little things like that. But sorry, I digress. But when it came down to having kids, yeah, it makes you really like have to efficiently plan your time, like we were talking a second ago. And with this record, we just prepared so damn much that we budgeted like 3 months or so, or 2 months or so, for the studio tracking, but we had practiced so much beforehand, myself included. And I believe that my practice is definitely my streaming, because like 75 to 90% of the time on my stream, it's me playing Trivium songs for Trivium fans. And it took us 16 days to record Dead Men, which is pretty crazy. Like 16 days was it. Yeah, that was it. Like,
that's
we were done.
Amazing.
We were done by day 16, and Josh Wilbur looks at us and he goes, I don't know if this was really good or not because it went too quick, but that's all it took. Alex took 2 days to do bass. I think my vocals were like 3 or 4 days.
Had you guys been rehearsing a lot?
We secretly had been, we made the music like maybe a year plus before ever telling anybody. And like my vocal warm-ups was already songs like Catastrophist and Dead Men for about a year before getting in the studio. And that's the only reason why. But I think with having kids, I make sure every minute is that efficient. Like everything that I do has to be like coordinated and planned. I think that's from like I would say like I'm half Japanese and half Marine because my dad and mom are just super regimented people. So it helped.
And I felt you've always been like that, you know. I think you've always been very like regimented in your, you know, even when you were 19 when you were touring with us for the first time, and you were even then like very disciplined and I was always like, wow, like that, I was not that together when I was 19 years old. Like, what the fuck?
Thank you. Yeah, I try to remember. I was like, was I like this then? But I guess maybe I was, maybe. But yeah, now it's like, I do believe that the kids put everything in the forefront. It either like squeezes things in a way that you're no longer good at those things, or it makes you incredible at the things you were good at before. Like I feel like Trivium could have gone another way, like way before when I used to theorize about children. I'm like, would I have gotten bad at guitar or bad at vocals because all the focus would have been on the kids? But instead, it's any free moment. I make sure that those things are at top level. And I believe that's the same thing that happened with this record. So all those moments that the kids were napping or I was away on tour, I was making sure I was just efficient and working only to better things. That way, as soon as it got time to get in the studio, we just went for it. And I think our days we worked were about, because of the trying to get home in time for bedtime, because 2 is crazy. Like you have 2 kids, and when you had 2 and they're small, it's like 1 kid can be handled by 2 adults. 2 kids, you kind of need 3 adults. So I'd need to coordinate like bedtime for the studio. So I was basically at the studio from 12 till 6 every day. Yeah, 12 to 6 every day of those 16 days. Just like, all right, Josh, let's go. Efficient. Let's go. Let's just work.
Well, I was curious, why do you say you worked on these songs in secret?
We like to do things now because Vengeance Falls, we did a method where every day we'd post in our socials like a picture of the studio, kind of teasing people. Okay. Yeah. And so for Sin, we never told anybody working on anything until we had the record done, videos done, artwork done, release date ready, and then we drop a finished product. Versus like, I think there are advantages to both, but since we had done that, I love that. Thank you. Since we had done the other method, and since I'm basically the Truman Show, because like I'm on Monday through Friday about 6-ish hours a day. And then on tour I streamed 7 days. You were
keeping it from them.
Yep. Yeah,
so
exactly.
They weren't privy to any new music or new riffs or whatever. Wow. So that's, I mean, even more so, that's pretty impressive because like, you know, like you're working 6 hours a day doing, you know, the Twitch stuff, and then still doing another, whatever, 2 or 3 hours rehearsing with the band or writing or creating somehow.
So what I would do is I would not do the afternoon streams. I do 9 a.m.
Were your Twitch subs all annoyed when they found out you were,
my mods, hiding so the main ones, the ones that like moderate my channel, they all said they knew something was up. They're like, we knew you were working on a record. We just didn't say anything. And I'm sure they're already saying, they're saying we knew already. So the 8 to 12 of them, they knew because of the schedule. Because I was like, oh, we're rehearsing. But then they'd be like, well, why are you rehearsing right now? There's no tour. So they knew. But viewers didn't necessarily know, and the regulars didn't necessarily know, because I'd still keep up that warm-up stream. I'd go up and I'd warm up stuff from the last record. Or, But what's been fun is, like, since we have 9 records now and the subs get to pick, I have to be pretty sharp on all 9 records of material, which is very hard to do. So I've got I've got 6 of the records down from start to finish, but 3 I don't.
Yeah.
And you always
3
have.
Don't you have? Like Embers?
Ember, I do. I have that one down. It's Crusade.
I was going to say that would probably stick because it's like your first album. Like all those things stick with you so much.
Crusade, Vengeance, and Silence I don't have perfectly down. And coincidentally, of all my records are my favorite, but coincidentally those 3 are my lower tier of favorites, because those 3 records were times we went, all right, we're picking a path. We're not going to go over here. Let's stay right here. Crusade was our decision to do that. Vengeance was kind of the producer being like, let's stay over here in this area. And then Silence, that other producer, said, let's stay over here in that area. And I found out that that's not Trivium. Trivium's got to be everything. It has to have everything at all times and no rules, and just let it happen.
Yeah, that's killer. That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
I love hearing that from you.
Thanks,
I can
man.
recall I can recall a couple of conversations we had. This is a decade, or more ago even, but you were still trying to find your way, and you're just kind of like, where should I go? You'd call me up
Hmm.
and you're like, I don't know, like, and I was like, dude, you just got to figure it out. Like, you just got to follow your gut. Like, it could take, like, it's a journey. Like, it's
Hmm.
such a path. Like, it's
Hmm.
such. I always, when people are talking like, what was it like writing the new record? I'm like, it's like walking into a dark room and you're completely lost looking for the doorknob because you don't know where the fuck you're going.
Hmm.
Like, you're just going, and then at some point, it all kind of falls into place, right? Like, is that
Absolutely.
how it is for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's the only times it's always like a challenge, but the times that it hasn't felt trivium, or the time, because like records 1 through 8, that's also what I love about your band is that you never really know what you're going to get for each record. Like, and that's what's amazing is that it can expand in different directions, try different things, revisit previous elements, explore new things. So records 1 through 8 for us, they're all different from each other. So I like that people didn't really know what they're going to get into, but with those three, those were the only times we set rules, but everything else we didn't set rules. We just made the kind of music we
Yeah.
wanted to hear, and we made the kind of stuff that we felt inspired by. I mean, you can hear very obvious Machine Head influence of records 1 through 3 on a song like Pull Harder, and then you can hear Ashes on like the section of Pull Harder, like
Right.
very Ashes. But I think that's the journey. It's like allowing those things to happen and creating things based off of like what you love. But anytime it's let's stay over here or let's stay away from this, at least for me or for Trivium, those are the times that it hasn't been fully Trivium. Those are the times when people are like feels like it's missing something. But the last two, it's been we didn't even set up any parameters or rules. We didn't say let's do this, let's make extreme songs, let's make soft songs. It's just whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. It's like I definitely think that Alex coming in has added just this. I mean, the dude's
He's
fucking
insane.
phenomenal. I mean,
He's
Jesus
insane.
fucking Christ,
Yes,
dude.
he is
Like,
insane.
he's a beast.
Yes,
Like, he
he's what
is,
we
I
have
mean,
always been missing. Always been missing.
yeah, I mean, compared
Because
to, and I toured with Travis probably
mhm,
the most. And so,
mhm.
like, just, compared to Travis, it's like a whole other fucking level. Like, I don't
Alex is a
even know if
monster.
Travis could pull off blast beats like,
Alex is one of the best, like of every drummer I've seen in the world and everyone that I've seen and played with, I put Alex in top 10, top 5 greatest drummers I've ever seen. Like removing myself from Trivium, even like that's how good he is. I remember we'd go tour with bands and I'd see drummers like Mario from Gojira or I'd see Eloy from Sepultura and be like, those guys are the freak. Like, what was it
sick.
like to have a drummer like that? And then now, like playing our shows with Alex, I'm like, oh, I know what that feels like. It just makes you feel like impervious. It makes you feel super powerful. And I think that is why Sin and Dead Men, a little bit of why they are the way they are, because all of a sudden we went, wow, we can actually do anything now. Because before the three of us were able to sort of, I'm not saying do everything, but do everything that Trivium should be of that very wide scope. So to give like our previous drummers some slack, it would be really difficult to be able to, of a band that has 9 records that are all so different from each other, to be able to play simple stuff like from Silence and then play kind of techie stuff from Shogun and super fast stuff like Ascendancy. But a guy like Alex can do everything and in between. I mean, his I don't know if you've heard the other bands he's played with, but he's played with a lot of like crazy tech death bands. He's played with
Yeah,
some like,
Zach, my engineer, has recorded all of his tech bands, so he was
oh
playing
really?
them
That's
for me.
awesome.
Yeah,
I remember seeing his Brain Drill videos. He was briefly in this band called Brain Drill and watching his
that
like
shit's
alternating
insane.
blasts. Like he'd be blasting with his main hand and hitting cymbals with the others and going back. And I watched that. I was like, that's the guy. That's the guy. Because I remember when it was
Right.
time to switch again, I couldn't tell my band members because I remember when I first brought out the Apollo, he's like, dude, if we do this again, we're done. I was like, trust me. I was like, trust me. So I did my research beforehand. I talked to Mark Lewis. I was like, Mark, you need to get me the guy. And he's like, this is the guy that I was going to recommend. He said Alex was the guy he was going to recommend before Silence, actually, but he wasn't available because he was in Battlecross at the moment. And he just happened to be free at that time. I got a couple of videos without telling my band guys. I asked Mark, and then somehow Sean Glass found out. I don't know how he kind of.
Sean,
Dude, I love
fucking
Sean.
Glasshole.
Yeah, I
Not
love Glass.
surprisingly, Glasshole
I love
found out.
I love Glass so much. I
He
feel like
knows
he
everything.
is the Perez Hilton of metal. That's what he is. He just knows. He just
How
knows.
the fuck does he hear shit?
So
It's
he
crazy.
knew somehow, and
Shout
I found that out later.
We love Glasshole.
I love Sean so much. But so he knew, but I was like, all right, we can't let Sean know, but Sean knew. And but I only spoke to Mark, and somehow it got to Sean. But it all worked out, and Alex is just freaking amazing. I hope he knows how amazing we think he is. I hope he hears this, because I don't know if we tell him enough. I tell him every time, but I hope he knows. But it's also good that he's so humble about it. The first thing he ever recorded for Trivium was the song "The Sin of the Sentence," and it was his warm-up take. He did the entire song from start to finish once in one go perfectly. He's like, all right, I'm ready to get started. And all of us looked at each other like, that was the take, man. He tried to He tried to better it, and it was as good as the last one. And I believe we kept the first take.
Did he write that record with you, or was the song the basic songs already kind of there, and then he was brought in?
We had super loose stuff set up. Like, Paulo's really good at writing drums. Whenever I write drums, it becomes things that drummers are always like, dude, no human can play that. Like, I'll have 3 things hit at the same time. But what we did with Alex is we found out he was so like incredible and down. And so we arranged that he would fly out. Paulo went to meet him in California before we had him come down. He came down. We gave him like a set list of like 19 or 20 songs of spanning across like records 1 through 7. Sorry. We played that set with him. And then we surprised him with, all right, we've got some new material. What would you do with songs like this? And then we started teaching him new material to see how he'd write, basically, in like within practice 2 or practice 3 of ever playing with him. And when we all noticed we could play any riff and he could play any drum part that would complement it. Because I remember like previously, like there have been other drummers we've had where we've all liked some of the same bands, but I feel it's important to work with a band like us for a producer or for a drummer. Or for someone who's going to really be involved with the auditory, because we've had producers that didn't understand parts of our sound. They didn't understand the extreme metal element. They didn't understand black metal or melodic death metal or death metal. I feel like you have to have a basic fundamental understanding of that stuff to know where some of our roots come from. I'd play a black metal riff. Alex would know exactly what to play and what the tasteful max was for Trivium. And I think that speaking that musical language without having to describe it is so important, because I've had other drummers where I'll play something extreme and they'll go to like a rock beat for like, because sometimes that's cool to juxtapose. But if I'm playing something that is like very like melodic death metal or like kind of black metal that requires that intensity, and you give me an AC/DC beat, it's not always right. But Alex would do the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, the title track to your new album, that middle section is just a flawless execution of pretty much pure black metal, but just somehow, like everybody's got their influences, and you've taken this, what is genuinely a pure influence, and just incorporated it so effortlessly into so effortlessly into the song. It's so fucking exciting and thrilling. And I was like, oh my God, listen to this shit. I was like, listen to the fucking drummer. Holy fuck. Like, it's killer. And it adds this whole element that makes it exciting and fresh and young, and kudos to me. I've said this before, I love the record's fucking awesome.
Thank you so much.
Like those little, but to me what makes it awesome is that, hey, we're going to stretch out way the fuck over here, and you know what, it works. Like, we got this, and then it just goes back into the groove, and those are the chances that a band on their 9th album doesn't take. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to go, well, or maybe are we going to lose some fans if we go into this blast beat, black metal part, like that thinking can be bad, because even though, and maybe the thing that saves you in that event is that, you are still really young. Like, you started so young that even now you're like, are you 33?
I always forget. I'm 34 or 35. I think I'm 30. I think I'm 34. I always forget.
Okay. Yeah, you're 34. Exactly. You're 34. I mean, I was 34 right in the blackening, so you're on album 9, and so you still have that, like, I want to go ahead and fucking, I don't know where I want to go. I just want to go out in all these places. And that's a healthy place to be, Matt Heafy.
Heck yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, I learned it from guys like you. Like, I'm not just saying that because we're here, but I think everyone knows by now, and as well, like, the first metal show I ever saw was the Year of the Dragon tour, Orlando House of Blues, Burning Red. Yeah. That was the first time I'd ever heard music done like that. And it totally changed the way I wrote. I remember getting home that night, picking up my guitar, trying to downtune it to drop B, and it was like the wrong strings for it, so it was all floppy. But it was I got to show you someday. Is it on our re-release record? Let me double check. I'm pretty sure it is. So we did an album called.
I remember you loved the song Silver. I remember you told me about that in the past.
Silver's always one of my favorites.
Which we played a lot back then, and somehow just stopped playing going forward.
On Ab Initio, it was what Ab Initio means from the beginning. It was 3 of our super old demos into Ember to Inferno. The song Thrust, and it's a really funny title. The original singer came with the title Thrust, but that song is what we wrote like immediately after ever seeing Machine Head and hearing The Burning Red, that song. And you can hear how it drastically changed. So Pain and Lake of Fire on the Ruber demo, that's what it's called, Ruber for Red. Pain was the first song I ever personally wrote in Trivium, and Thrust is one that like Brad and I wrote together. But Thrust is when we first heard The Burning Red, and you can hear that the don't with the wah pedal stuff and the kind of dissonant stuff that you're doing on that record. So that's right when I started listening to Machine Head, and it's very obvious, and you can tell it, which is so cool. And that's where we started like taking those chances. Then I look at like what shirts you were wearing and like what bands you were listening to, and that's where it goes out from. That's what's so cool about. That's what I've always loved about metal. And hardcore and punk. I feel like metalcore kids don't really do this correctly, and I try to help inspire them to. Metal kids always know the roots. We know where things come from. Like when we hear a band, like when I first got into black metal, I was like, all right, what did they listen to? And I find out it's like you take the second wave bands like Emperor, and they were into bands like Bathory and Venom and Slayer, and you kind of trace it backwards, and then it's got some folk music in there. And I think that's what's always great. Hardcore kids understand the same thing, but I feel like metalcore kids, I'll hear some like newer people, because we've had some crew guys or some band guys that are kind of from that scene, and we're incorporated from metalcore as well. But they don't always know where Black Flag came from, or Cro-Mags, or like the distant roots of it. And that's what I've always liked about metal,
the core
metal and
hardcore.
Metalcore. Yeah, exactly. Like where it comes from. I think that's so important. And that's why we've always, like when we came up, we were always wearing our favorite band shirts, or we still do that, our favorite bands or the bands we're listening to. And you mentioned the black metal thing. I've always, like since I was 15, 16, I was into black metal. I never really knew how to quite incorporate it. We've done like little hints of it. And now for some reason it just makes sense. And that's the thing I was telling you about too. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I've been recording vocals with Ishan from Emperor. And we've been doing my black metal record, and it's finally coming out. And he helped like unlock this new vocal style. The big thing he said to me before we started vocals, he's like, you have 9 records of Trivium. You can't do any of the style that you did before. And I was like, that's all I know how to do. I can only scream one way and sing one way. So he challenged me to unlock a new screaming method and unlock a new singing method. And we're going to have Alex play drums on that as well.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun. But he's got this new software thing that it's basically like this, except he's able to run the entire board just like this. And he can record all the HD files from here. So we've been doing that because he's in Norway and I'm over here.
Right.
So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So you're recording your vocals just in that room, and he's recording it all into the files and everything, like in real time.
Yep. It's crazy. I didn't even know a thing like that existed. I was like nervous about like bitrate transfer and stuff, but all the wave files are perfect, and I've been listening to mixes, and it's come out great. It's crazy.
Sick. That's
technology,
sick.
Man.
That's amazing. I'm curious to hear that. I was listening to a podcast with you, and I think it was from a while ago, because I guess this project has been brewing for a while
10
now,
years,
right?
10 years, yeah. 10 years in the making. Some of these songs...
I think this podcast was 3 years ago.
Yeah, some of the DI tracks are actually from 10 years ago, too, which originally I was going to re-record, but I think it's cool. So sorry, I cut you off. You were saying.
But it's, I think, well, at least when I was listening to 3 years ago, like I think you guys were still trying to form what it was, and it was, at first it started off as kind of traditional old school black metal, and then you guys kind of morphed into something else. And it was like, at least what I got out of it, I was like, you guys are talking about it too much. Like you just need to like sit down and do it, because you could like, I want to go this way and I'm going to go, but then it's until you start going down that road, like you don't really know. Right. Is that where, are you going down that road now? And has it changed from the original change?
The original plan was, because I knew the mindset, because when I was 15, 16, anything that was on the radio I thought was terrible. Anything that had singing I thought was terrible. So ironically, I was in a band with singing. Like I knew a guy like Matt Heafy from Trivium should not be able to be in a black metal band. Like as if I go back on my 15, 16-year-old kind of like jerk extremist metal kid vibe. So the original plan was record it under an alias, never tell anybody who was in it, never play any shows, just make this like very true music. Somehow I got a contact with Ishan through Candlelight Records. I've been buddies with the guys from Candlelight since I was like 15, since I was like 18 actually. And I got him this song. This was around right before In Waves was supposed to come out. I sent it to him. I was like, hey, I've always been a big fan of your band, and here's a song I made kind of paying tribute to the genre. He's like, this sounds like, 90s black metal. Good job. I was like, okay. And I started like checking out what he'd been up to. He had just released this record called Eremita with his solo stuff. I listened to that. It had jazz chords and clean singing and saxophone solos and 8-string guitars, all these things that shouldn't be in black metal. And it made me sort of rethink the whole idea of black metal. Black metal came out as a rebellion to what everyone else was doing. They were like, all right, metal is stale. We're going to show you something that's better, and it's more extreme and more intense, and it's supposed to break that mold. And then it kind of stagnated and stayed the same. And so there are a lot of black metal purists like, no, it should just sound like this. It should sound like lo-fi tin can stuff when squelching and recorded in the woods. And it's like, that's not exciting. So I felt like he'd always reapplied the concept of black metal, that rebellion back to black metal again, because every Emperor record was completely different from the previous. And basically when they're at their pinnacle, they disbanded, like, all right, we're done. And I really liked that he would always do that polar opposites. And with the solo stuff, it's crazy different. I just heard like the new record, which is some of the most melodic stuff they've ever done. The one before that was like going back to the roots. One was kind of a noisy, experimental, artsy one. Like I said, saxophone solo. So when I heard that, I started thinking about all my influences of all like the Scandinavian bands of like across Sweden and Norway. And I just completely redid it. I made something strange that was influenced by classical music, but also like French gypsy jazz and Rodrigo and Gabriela and classical guitar, and allowing anything and everything to happen. And I started recording these things 10 years ago, and I showed him some of the early stuff. This is amazing. And he's like, you've completely like rethought of what this was meant to be. And I asked him if he'd be into producing it and helping out with it. And he said, yeah. So he actually co-wrote a couple of the songs. I remember one day he's like, I've got these old riffs that I wrote for Emperor that I didn't use. Would you have any interest in those? I was like, yes, please. I would like your old Emperor riffs that you have not used. And so 2 of those went into some new songs. As we were getting closer, because this was like this 10-year project of me recording things and us not really being able to nail it down. And I visited him in Norway and said that, we set out all the plans. He took me around his old hometown. I saw all the stave churches that weren't burned down in the 90s. And they're these beautiful, amazing, like Viking-esque looking churches. I got to see the old lake that the Nightside Eclipse record was painted off of, because like I've been a massive Emperor fan since I was a kid. Saw the studio we're due to record it in. When we hit this quarantine time, we started talking again. We're like, we've got a lot of time right now. We should get back on this. So some of the early stuff that we started back in 2010 or even 2009, the DI tracks I recorded, I tried to outdo them. And one of the things I used to think black metal was about perfection. I was like, Ishan, like when you guys did these riffs, it was like always perfect, wasn't it? He's like, no, it's the opposite. He's like, it's always been kind of this like punky, messy thing is what made the black metal stuff its own thing. And I didn't realize that, this kind of like looseness. And he said it's about the intensity and the aggression, less about perfection. So I kept trying to redo and outdo my old demos or my old recordings, and I couldn't. So what we saw is that the stuff from 2010 was actually perfect in that aggression. So we're keeping that stuff. And I right now have the track list where it's actually in chronological order from 2010 to 2019 is when I wrote the newest song. And it worked out like that. So now we only have a couple songs of vocals left. Alex has to do drums. It'll take him like a day and a half or 2 days, and then we're done. So we should have this record finally in the can in about a month, which is super exciting. And I've had the artwork for 6 years now. I've had the logo for 7 years. It's just been sitting there, but sitting there well preserved.
How do you say the band name? I didn't feel like I would do the band name justice.
Ritu. Yeah, and it's an old Sanskrit word. When I was getting heavily into Ashtanga yoga, I always thought one of the poses was really interesting. Shavasana. It's the ending thing. It's basically laying flat. Corpse pose is what it means. So I looked up Shava, means corpse, and I started seeing a synonym called Mrityu. And Mrityu is kind of the concept of life and death in its own thing, and this cyclical. It's not necessarily positive. It's not necessarily negative. It's kind of like the Japanese Enso. It's kind of like a Jormungundir, I think that's what it's called in Swedish Viking lore, the snake that's eating its own tail, that once it's released from its tail, it eats the world. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing. So Mrityu is this kind of positive and negative death thing where it's this stasis. So I got the whole idea from Ashtanga yoga.
Very cool. That's awesome that you is that like your main workout? Like, is that kind of how your main exercise? I mean, I know you do the jujitsu, but is
yoga was so from like 2010 till about 7 years ago, Ashtanga yoga was the main thing. But as of 7 years ago, it's been Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But I still make sure I keep it. So you don't do the
yoga anymore.
Today I actually did yoga, so it's a lot less. Like when I'm in my normal regiment, like when I'm off tour, it's 5 days a week of jiu-jitsu, which is about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day of that. Yoga twice within that 5 days, and then like body weight or kettlebell stuff 3 of those days of those 5. So
yeah,
it's
a little
yoga.
Bit.
It's incredible.
Dude, it's fucking hard.
It's, like, it really is.
People are like, oh, yoga. And I'm like, no, bro. Like, you got to try some fucking yoga.
Yep. And it's so much better for you than so many other things. I feel like it's more beneficial to your body than like powerlifting or weightlifting. I love the mental thing. That's what's so important to me, the mental aspect of it. And that's what I looked at jiu-jitsu as well. Because I mean, even when I'm playing shows, I'm like thinking about other things sometimes. What am I going to eat tomorrow? What city are we in? What are they known for? What's their food? Like my mind drifts, and that's why I do so much. Even when I'm like playing games.
Did I send out my clothes to be washed today? Like,
exactly.
You're having this like inner monologue, right?
Exactly. But during grappling, when I'm grappling with someone, that's like one of the purest forms of Zen that I'm in. Because for the first couple of years, you're thinking while you're grappling, like, all right, he's trying to get my arm. Is he trying to do this? Like, how do I fight here, and here? But after a couple of years, it's like music. It becomes muscle memory. And so when I am grappling, it's like the only time I'm not thinking, which I love. And yoga is the same thing as well. When I'm really in the moment of it and there's nothing in my mind, that's what I love so much. So I chase that. So anything I can get to with that, I feel good. And I think I also, it's kind of digressing and proving how my mind goes in all directions sometimes.
It's called no fucking regrets, Matt. You can go anywhere you want.
I know I'm a super high anxiety person. I've always been, but the way I quell that is with doing as many things as possible. So the more stuff I've self-imposed and the more things I'm doing, that anxiety is, I don't know if it's like it mutes it or it actually kind of extinguishes it. It's one of the two.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like if I have nothing to do, I make 10 things for myself to do because I just need to have that constant like mental stimulation, and I do agree with you on the yoga. Like it is really like when you start getting good at it and like, you're like, oh no, this isn't just about stretching and like that there's a whole like mental focus and there's a whole like, zoning out of, I do yoga. When I do it, we haven't been able to do it for a while, but when we do it, it's right next to a kids center. So there's kids always like running around and pounding on the window and, like you got to blank that shit out. That's the whole point of it is like, yes, it's okay that that's happening. Don't get annoyed by it. Just tune it out. And it's hard, sometimes it's hard for our modern world to do that kind of stuff. We're so affected, hypersensitive to shit that's going on around us. To be able to tune that out, I think is super powerful. And I've actually been doing some powerlifting. I got into powerlifting like a year ago. And not that you'd ever know it from my body, but it's like, I did it more for like rehab. Like I didn't go into it like, oh my God, I want to fucking deadlift 400 pounds. I did it more like, no, I need to just strengthen my structure. And it was pretty rad because, like the first thing that I learned was that I've been doing bench press wrong for like 35 years. And I was just like, oh yeah. Cause I had stopped doing it. Like I'd stopped doing push-ups. I'd fucking constantly fuck up my shoulder. I was like, I don't know. Like I'm too old. Like I'm too old to do it. I'm 52. So it's like, I was just like, maybe this is just what happens when you reach this age. And he's like, no, you're just, showed me all these corrections and all these little things that I was doing. And I was like, fuck, I'm bench pressing now at 52 more than I could when I was 18, 20, 25. And I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Like what a trip to like, and a lot of it, I think, is that always wanting to learn, like being open to learning. And, so much of life is about, we're dudes and dudes are generally dumb and think they know everything. So, to like, okay, maybe I don't know everything. Like I still got a ways to go. And I still feel like that. Like I still feel like I've got this ways to go in my life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I don't know if
I mean, I'm definitely the same. Like I love, one of my favorite things in the world is to like truly try. Like I know I'm a very slow learner. I know some people kind of like, no, you're not, Matt, but I actually am a very slow learner and it's hard for me to pick things up. So I try to put in double to triple the amount of time that I feel someone else has to. Jiu-jitsu was a super, super slow, frustrating thing for me. Like the first year I wanted to quit. The first 3-4 years, I was like, what the hell is going on? I'd still be going 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, and just getting beat all the time. People started before me, or sorry, after me, excelling way past me. And then it was around like the 5 or 6 year mark where I started, like, things started making sense. Same thing with singing. I blew my voice out in Vengeance Falls because I had been singing and screaming incorrectly for 15 years, which kind of blew my mind. I was like, after 15 years, I should become, I don't know, calloused enough or used to what I'm doing where it should just work. So I had to unlearn everything. And that's the reason why I practice so much. It was to, and it still is to erase all those incorrect years and replace them with all these correct years is what I've been trying to do. And I feel like I'm not there, and like, nor will I ever be quote there. Like a couple of the concepts I learned, like I like to live by is I practice for the sake, I practice for perfection, knowing perfection is impossible. I practice to be as good, if not better than my heroes, knowing it'll never happen. Like one of the things I say is like, I practice vocals to be as good as Bruce Dickinson, knowing it's not going to happen. I practice to be as good as Freddie Mercury, knowing it's not going to happen. I practice to be the best, knowing that's not going to happen, but not in the negative sense. It's not about that end part. It's about the continual effort and attempt to try to be the best that I can be at a thing. And I love that you do the same. And it's crazy how much like little things like corrections of form. I remember I used to think same thing with like lifting. Like I was like, I know the form, how to do a squat, right? And a bunch of my friends who are like, a couple of my friends who are like certified, like weightlifter coaches for the firefighters who are also at the jiu-jitsu, they would show me like, no, your squat is totally off. Your hip hinge is completely wrong. And they'd show me exactly the right things. And I love when I find things like that. And I'm trying to do the same thing with video games too, because I used to just play games when I was a kid, like not really thinking about it. But nowadays it is about, there are drills you can work on. There are drills of shooting, and there are drills of, for Fortnite, for building and shooting and things like that. And there's just so many things in life that you can work at. And I love to find the specific things that I love, like yoga, jujitsu. It was cooking for a while, but that's since with streaming and jujitsu has kind of fallen by the wayside. I like to eat. It's a little easier. I do the cleaning and the eating.
Have you found that during the coronavirus that you've been able to focus more on some of these things?
Massively. I love playing shows. I love eating with the band and hanging out with our band and crew on days off and sightseeing. It's the moments on the plane. It's the moments sitting on the bus. It's what I just had a flashback of what I was talking about. You're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. When you wake up on a show day and you still have another 6 hours to go on the drive, but it's like a 30-hour drive from the previous night, right? Or you've got one of those hell days where your entire day off, you show up at 8 p.m. Those are the moments where it's like, this isn't fun. Like, sure, there are worse professions, but it's playing shows, it's eating, it's being in the moment, it's meeting fans that I love. It's those other moments, standing in security check line, another airport, having to get like your bag out of the bay, like things like that I don't love. So to be able to be home and still play the music I love, write the music we love, and still hanging out with the fans that we love, and be able to be with the kids and be with my wife and keep everything organized, it has been really interesting that it's a double-edged sword, of course. We had the record release. We decided not to push it. It did very well on streaming things, but of course CD sales were terrible for us because things were just holed up. But I saw a couple articles of some people, and I'm not calling myself depressed or anything, but how some people with depression have actually thrived in this time. That they've actually done better, where you'd kind of expect the opposite for people who maybe be depressed during a time like this, that they would have a very difficult time, but there's been proof that some have actually thrived. I don't know, because it's kind of leveled the playing field. And I think that's one of the interesting things, that no one is impervious to this. Well, I guess like mass corporations are benefiting and are impervious to this, but at least of the scale below that, like the real humans that we want to be in the same planet with, like none of us are invulnerable to this.
Yeah, I mean, I found that, of course it was a complete shock. We were getting ready to go on tour. We had to cancel our tour because it literally had reached, we lost 3 shows, then we lost 7 shows, then we lost 10 shows. And then it was like, hey, dude, we can't afford to do this tour anymore. Like talking to my agent, like we just lost 10 fucking shows. Like we can't take a hit like this. We need all, some of them were big paydays. And as you know, a tour is like held by anchors. There's certain shows that kind of hold the whole tour together, and the rest of it's just kind of filling in to get from point A to point B. And it was like, holy shit. And so we made the move to cancel it. Luckily, we hadn't put any deposits down on buses or trucks, and the ones that we did, they let us, they let us slide on it. But in a lot of ways, man, it's been like a pretty Brad reset button. It I'm working out more, like I'm really driven, like I've been trying to, like, I've forced myself to do things that I probably never would have ever done had life just gone on. I'm doing these acoustic shows every Friday at 3 p.m.
I loved the cover, by the way, and I was super honored. So thank you. Sorry, you're saying.
It's a fucking awesome song. Yeah, right on, man. Right on. And I knew that in doing acoustic shows, I would suck. Like, I knew I was going to suck. And I was like, I got to go out there and suck for like 6 weeks and just like get over this hump, because it's scary. Like, you don't want to fuck. It's when it's just you and a fucking acoustic guitar. I don't even have like, you've got more production. Like, I've got like just a fucking microphone plugged into my phone. You know what I mean? Like, it's like just having that, like, naked, being naked like that and being vulnerable like that, and like, just, okay, like, I can do this. I can, never having done this before. I've only done one acoustic, done a handful of acoustic shows, probably 10 my whole life. And it got me to a point where now I'm like, I called up Melissa Cross again. I was like, okay, I'm really sick of listening to me miss these fucking notes here. What the fuck am I doing wrong? And oh yeah. So now I'm like, unlearning all these bad habits, because I'm not, I don't sing clean. Like, most of my singing is, heavy, growly, deathy shit. And it's sprinkled with clean, as it always has from album one. But now it's like I'm singing songs where there's no growly shit and it's all clean. And that's like, oh no, I gotta fucking unlearn 27 years of bad clean singing habits now. And fuck, what a mind fuck it is, man. Like, but there's been some great fucking, even just like me and my wife hang out now. Like, we're having probably 3 times as much sex as we used to. So I was like, it's not that bad. I'll shut down. Like,
that's awesome. Yeah, it's so interesting. I think for guys like us that tour for a living, like, it's the financial loss stinks. Like, we had an Asian tour that we had everything booked. We had all the hotels and all the flights bought and everything, and it went away. Yeah. But to be able to be with family is just so incredible, because in those moments that I mentioned, I don't want to say it's the majority of being on tour, but let's say it's like half of the time of being on tour when there's nothing happening.
Yeah.
All you want to do is see your family, and to be able to do that is just so great. And that's one of the things that's been so great for me about streaming, is because when I am doing my vocal warm-ups on tour, it's an hour long. It's very boring. It's lonely. But the fact that I get to turn on a camera and talk to these people, and they have to go through those same noises that I go through as well. There's something
Are they doing it with you?
I probably. We have an emote of me as a pigeon, because a lot of my exercise like pigeons, like that kind of stuff. So it's a pigeon with my face on it. So that's what's been nice. And I think that touring musicians are probably doing better now in this situation than others, because we're used to a lot of dead time. But maybe it's better for those who don't know what to do during that dead time on tour. That's why a lot of musicians like you and I have seen it. You and I like, I've been stuck in that rut myself, where, like, being in like partying and booze and being like, just like, all right, this is all here. I can do this. I can beat my body up. It doesn't matter. But then it does kind of catch up to you. This is teaching musicians hopefully how to fill in their time with productivity. So when they go out on tour, they can only strive to do better, which is good. I hope that happens a bit. Yeah, it's been a really interesting time. I mean, I guess we've kept every other record secret. I'll try to not advertise it too much after this, but like, already we have new riffs. I don't know when that'll take place or anything, but like, these new riffs that I'm hearing, I come up with a lot of mine on stream because I'm always streaming. They're even different than the last record, but some parts are more extreme. So it's exciting that creativity is even able to thrive during a time like this, versus just being like, man, I'm ready for this. I am ready for this to go back. Because a lot of people are suffering. Some people lost their jobs, some people are furloughed, but people like us, it's an interesting situation that I think when you are a creative, you're able to fill in that time with something like that. And I hope that people can find that too, pick up an instrument and start learning something.
Was there any talk of pushing the record back? I mean, there had to have been lots of discussions, I would imagine.
It was brought up to us like right when this happened, and very quickly like all of us in the band said we don't want to. Like we're like we know that record sales aren't going to be as good. But we said we want to give people something. And that was the same goal as my channel, same goal as our record. We're like, we know people are stuck. Some people are now laid off or they're working from home and they're watching their kids at the same time. We want to give them that little bit of relief, that little bit of escape through our record. And that's what we went for. And the streaming numbers were some of the best we've ever had, like for the quote charting positions. The CD sales were kind of rough, but for us, we're like, we don't care. Let's just get it out. Let's give people something to do, something to enjoy right now.
I mean, the CD sales could have been rough either way. You know what I mean? Like, just where do people buy CDs? Certainly in America, I don't know where that is.
Yeah.
Maybe over in Europe. In Europe, they probably would have been stronger.
Yeah, Germany, we were told, was like significantly lower than it could have been because Germany still very much so buys CDs, which is awesome, which is interesting. Japan does too. Japan's like still very much a CD industry, which is
there's still a Tower Records in Japan. It's fucking crazy.
It is crazy, and they still get all the bonus songs. Japan's the only country that had like the bonus songs for our record. This new one.
Yeah, we stopped it. We stopped giving Japan the bonus. We're like, no, like you're not. Fuck you guys.
It's every record. They're like, give us more. That's our culture. No, we want more. Give us more.
This is the record. Just buy the record.
Always more.
Yeah, I you know what I think is interesting is that you've had I gotta say, for such a young band, and I was thinking about this because we have toured and we've seen, we first couple tours we were headlining over you, and then you were the opener, and then at one point you actually passed us up and we were opening for you on the Lamb of God to that poster behind you. We were playing before you, and you've had so many kind of all over the places, and I remember I just remember, there was something about you guys when especially early on when you first came out, and certainly going into the Lamb of God tour, people hated your guts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it wasn't just people.
Like, other bands, yeah,
press, we were.
It was really, really, in my opinion, overly harsh. I was like, they're fucking super nice guys. They're super talented. You're young, which I guess intimidated other people, I'm assuming, But I mean, I remember a couple things like Brent from Macedon, like threw pee on Paolo one night or something like that. Like, I remember he was fucking livid about it. I mean, we played that show on the Lamb of God tour, and like a bunch of people were coming to the Florida show to like kick your ass, or like there was so much. I was just like, the fuck is, like, what is the deal? Like, what what are your memories of that time?
Oh man, that tour, I was telling the story yesterday. I remember a guy waiting for me outside by our bus saying, "Good show, James." I was like, "James? Yeah, Hetfield, your band sucks." And he like wanted to fight me. I was like, "Call me James." It's like, what the hell? And that was specifically on the Lamb of God tour. But yeah, it's crazy. And I'm so happy that you've been like one of the few constant allies we've had since the moment we met you all the way throughout. And you've been able to see it. Cause a lot of people, like, I see band disputes nowadays. Like, I'm seeing I'm not gonna say any names, but I've seen like public disputes of bands like our band logo size was too small, so screw these guys. And they get like a Twitter beef and then like, you suck. No, you suck. It's like, you guys haven't dealt with like your favorite bands in the world saying you suck in actual interviews that's hard printed in magazines. I know where it comes from. I mean, the first part, we've been dealing with this weird adversity since I joined the band. Since I was 13 years old, since I joined Trivium. I remember high school Battle of Bands. First time I ever really tasted it was like 14, 15. Second time playing Battle of Bands. Metal wasn't the cool thing. Everyone in Florida was either pop punk or new metal had just sort of died off, but it was kind of like that, like post-hardcore scene, kind of screamo world, where that was the cool thing.
A day to remember type of thing or something.
It was more like the bands from like let me think, like early 2000s. So kind of like really early like screamo kind of bands. I remember there were a couple kids at the high school that were like running the thing, and that's when I still had long hair. I was wearing like Crizion shirts and Dimmu Borgir shirts and stuff like that. And I remember that one of the announcer kids said to the whole crowd when they were cheering Trivium when we were done, they're like, "All right, all the metal kids sit down," like making a joke. Like, I've seen bands do this thing ever since we've been coming up. And like, I get out from behind the curtain, I tell them all to stand back up. So that was like the first time I started feeling that. I definitely know where the worldwide hatred of other bands to us and other fans have come to us. It's from the UK. The UK was the only time and place of our band's history where we were a press band. It was just the UK, and it was just on ascendancy, and only lasted about 9 to 10 months. That's it. So for that 9 to 10 months, we were hailed as the greatest band of all time, the best, newest big thing.
Metallica.
Yep, the new Metallica. Every show we played, 10 out of 10, if not 11 out of 10. Greatest thing in the world.
Right.
And when that happened,
did they ever give you an 11 out of 10?
They didn't, but they've done that for some bands. I've seen 6 out of 5s for some bands lately. Hailed as like one of the best download shows, et cetera, et cetera. Like everyone knows the laundry list of stuff. But what that did, like we were confident. Like since I was 12, I wanted to be in a metal band that's quote big, that can play anywhere in the world, that has fans, that makes an impact. And that was my goal. And that should be a goal. And people shouldn't be quiet about their goals, and they should be, wanting to do well. So we came out saying, yes, we're going to be the next, I should have said we're going to be the next big metal band or some other quote, but instead, yes, we're going to be the next Metallica. I think I was 12. That was my 12-year-old goal. Why not when I'm 18? It's only a couple of years later.
Right.
So every band in the world started seeing this, like, all right, screw these guys. Screw these cocky kids. What the hell are they talking about? These guys suck. Then we came back to the States after that UK tour, after it blew up. All of a sudden, all my favorite bands we toured with, they treat us like garbage. Like, just being bullies. Like I remember on Ozfest, like some of the crew people would be like trying to cut us off with their golf carts and shoot dust in our face, and like little things like that, or like talking crap about us. Or one of my favorite singers of another band, one of my favorite singers of all time, I remember in a live review, he was talking about, and they printed this, like, get that Trivium shirt out of my face, get him a real shirt. And they brought out his band shirt and made the kid like give the Trivium shirt away. This was written in a magazine of a live show. I remember seeing another like metalcore band that I loved, got the guy's autograph in 2003. And then in 2005, he's saying, someone asked about Trivium. He's like, why do I give a shit what some spoiled rich kid has to say about anything? And I'm like, dude, I have your shirt. And so this was everything. It was mainly like a US band thing.
The Mastodon thing was pretty out of hand too. I'm not exactly sure why.
Yeah, we've.
What was the story with that?
I just remember Paulo getting. I totally forgot till you mentioned that. I think Paulo. I guess he got hit with pee. We'd have to ask Paulo. I don't quite remember that story.
Which is not surprising from Brent because he can be a dickhead sometimes. But
we had it from everywhere. So that was like, it was kind of spawned from that UK thing. And then next record, when we came back to the UK, they called us the worst band in the world. And then all those magazines that just put us on their cover, put us back on the cover saying how we're over. And then they started ripping into us. So then we had no allies. And
very UK press move right there.
Yes. So then
build you up, tear you down.
We went from all the bands hated us because of this good press to now we only have bad press. And then the UK, basically up until this record, has been trying to make us non-existent. We're never mentioned. They never talk about us. They don't promote our tour. Like sometimes here and there, like if we give them something, they'll give us something back, but it's never really like the proper reciprocation. But yeah, so we became that band that no bands liked us. I mean, we had a couple allies. Like I said, we had Machine Head, we had... in 2005, we had you guys, and that was it. That was it. But we were nice dudes. And I didn't understand it. I remember even having band guys tell me, like, we took a lot of crap for bringing your band out here. And I'm just like, shocking stuff, like being bullied from my favorite bands. And it's stuff that we never really talked about, but we remembered it. Not like Steve Buscemi's character in Billy Madison or anything like that, with like the lipstick and the list, but just it sucked. It's like stuff that we would never want to do. But then we've had some lineups of questionable people that have been maybe disrespectful to other band members or crew people. And then we've had crew people that we later on found out were bad to bands. So then we had a very bad reputation. We'd be like, those guys are dicks. They're terrible human beings. They suck. They're cocky. They're arrogant. And it was really around in waves where that reputation started to dissipate. And people were like, oh, wait a second. These guys are actually really nice. And maybe they've been nice the whole time. I remember we had a crew guy that said it to Jesse Leach, who's like he was one of my favorite singers of all time. He said to him, they just came off a long van ride. I apologize to Jesse about this. But they came off a long van ride. They went up to catering one day while we were headlining a show that they were on for a headlining tour in the States.
Kill Switch had just come off of a long van ride, or you guys had just come off? They did.
That's when he was in Seamless.
Okay.
So he went up to catering to go grab some food, and we had a tour manager that went, whoa. Nobody eats till Matt Heafy eats. and he sent him out of the catering room.
jeez.
And that's where that caught freaking like wildfire. I still hear about
your tour manager said that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and so I heard about that for
like what the what the fuck?
Years
what are you doing?
And years and years, and still to this day. But luckily, we have adapted it. We've adopted. We've taken that. I have it on shirts now. It's become a funny meme. I've talked like it's become like I've taken that thing to my own. But that's like so we've had crew people like that, and it's hard to know when you're 18, 19 years old. You don't know that these people that you've paid to be like representing you well and taking care of your show are going to treat some of your like talk to people like that. So now we just make sure anytime we see something like that, they're gone instantly. You know, I said, I apologize, Jesse, for that years later. I'm like, dude, whatever this tour manager did, I obviously did not tell him to say that. I was like, I grew up listening to your music. Like, why would that be a thing that I would have my tour manager personally be instructed to attack you like that? So just weird upbringing. And then so people started realizing, all right, these guys are all right. And then it's since shifted. And I'm glad other bands, it doesn't really seem like bands go through that anymore. Like you guys were like of an era where like you tour with some of these bands that you're like, oh man, whoever opens up for this band is going to get destroyed. Like that was like an era like we saw kind of like in the 90s and progressing up to the 2000s. And now it's just easy. Like, and I'm glad. I don't want bands to get bullied like we did. I don't want that to happen. But that was so difficult. And then we quickly realized we're like, all right, we have no allies. We have ourselves, and that's kind of it. Of course, back to like we had a couple friends here and there that weren't doing that to us. But I think that's why we've always been such a tight-knit group. That's why Paulo, Corey, and myself, and now Alex has been brought into that, but why Paulo, Corey, and myself specifically have always had such a tight-knit relationship, because there was a time where every press person was trying to destroy us, and the only place that's ever liked us. Every band we grew up listening to was talking shit about us, and we had nothing. We had nothing but the three of us and our fans. And that's where things started to like, that's why our fan relationship is so strong. That's why we give so much of ourselves. And that's why I give so much of myself, even like I said, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. Like it's because they're the only constant. They're the only thing that kept us going and kept us motivated to do it. But yeah, it was weird. It was really weird. Like just the amount of bad stuff that was either conjured up from us having good press in one place, or just what some of these bands were doing and saying. But we really were like on Ozfest 05, we were like public enemy number one from every band, just treating us like garbage, just being bullies. It was high school, but then it made us want to play harder. It made us just
that was and I saw you guys on that Ozfest. In fact, that's where the thing with Macedon happened. And I came down to that to do press for Roadrunner United. And we all hung out. We did a photo shoot. That was with Slipknot and
Joey, Dino, me, and you took the photo, but Slipknot and Fear Factory weren't on. I think they came in specifically for that picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Was Killswitch on that tour?
Not on that one. They were in like 04. We were in 05. But that was the one where like I don't know who arranged it. Iron Maiden got egged.
Iron Maiden thing?
Yep. So with all that stuff happening, where all these bands started bullying us, like we flew over to the UK, did like we missed a show because what did we do over there? There was a magazine cover or something that came back, found out about the egging. We were asked to participate, and we said no. And when Iron Maiden left the tour,
a bunch of the Osborne camp, we don't know who, but a bunch of the ask all these bands to egg Iron Maiden.
Yep. And so after that happened, we all wore Iron Maiden shirts every single day on stage for the rest of the tour, played the Trooper every day, and covered all our cabs in Maiden flags.
Oh my God.
And that's why we had golf cart people trying to like ram into us and stuff. So we're like, you know what? Everybody hates us already anyway, except for our fans. Let's just go out here and tell these people we don't care. Yeah, it was.
Oh, so the tour continued on after that?
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so Maiden had to leave like a couple weeks before it ended. And then that happened. We're like, you know what? Screw these people. Like, let's just cover ourselves in Maiden stuff. And then Maiden brought us on tour after that. I don't know if it's because of that, but I know that they liked the Crusade. Like, I think they liked the transition to the Crusade. And then they liked that like kind of backing thing that we did.
That was a shocking show, right? Yes. I mean, just watching all, like
they're cutting their PA, egging them.
Cutting their PA, fucking they were, when they do the Trooper, the one guy ran across the stage with the American flag instead of the UK flag like Dickinson does.
Nonsense.
I've never seen anything like it. Whoever
was responsible, like, hopefully you're not playing shows anymore. Hopefully you're not getting good work, because that's not okay to do. So yeah, that was kind of like that era has dissipated, that like bully BS era. And now it's just, you see like little dumb like beefs, but nothing ever serious. So I hope that no young band ever has to go through what we went through, but it made us who we are too. Like, it made us strong. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And it showed us who our real
I mean,
friends are.
that's kind of what I wanted to go with it, was that it, like, my God, you took so much. I mean, it was like a
It was,
years long.
and I appreciate you
thing.
recognizing that, because most people just don't. Like, most people just don't recognize, like, they're like, oh, yeah, you guys were dicks for a while, right? Like, I remember being asked in an interview, like, for a really big platform. They're like, oh, yeah, so a lot of bands don't like you, huh? And this was like 6 years after that. I was like, you're a little late. We've already corrected all that stuff. And
you're a little late.
Yeah, man.
Why you gotta bring up old shit?
Yeah. Ugh. But it's funny. My main cam, like, as we're talking, I see Black Crusade right here. For anyone that missed that tour, Machine Head, Trivium, Arch Enemy, Dragon Force, Shadows Fall. That was
Which one is
like Black Crusade that we did. It was the Black Crusade tour.
Where's the poster? Are you pointing to something behind you?
When I send you this file, it's like a little bit over here. Yeah. But that one, man, what, like
that was
7,500 to 10,000 people plus a show. Good food. Man, our catering on that tour was awesome too. That was eat to the beat. I liked that catering. I remember I was having like 2 or 3 desserts every night. It might have been packed on some pounds.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good one.
That was a stacked bill too, man.
That was one of the greatest tours. Then it was Arch Enemy.
Shadows Fall opening, Arch Enemy, Dragon Force supporting, which Arch Enemy probably should have been over them because people were throwing garbage cans at Dragon Force, which sucks for them.
Yeah, Arch Enemy's crushing it right now too. They're crushing it. But if we're ever going to resurrect Black Crusade 2,
they were crushing it back then.
Yeah, man.
They were crushing it back then.
Black Crusade Part 2 would crush the entire planet. Whenever you're ready.
It would be sick.
Yes.
It would be amazing.
Part 2 worldwide, every single country.
I gotta say, I'm loving doing 3-hour shows.
Yeah.
I'm loving having all the dressing rooms to myself.
That's true. It is nice. I do love those big venues. You're like, oh man, I actually get to stretch out now. Because like even like some of the big halls in the UK, like there aren't very many rooms sometimes. So it must be really nice. Like, yes, we have it all.
It is kind of nice. And it's worked. I mean, we're not playing arenas like the Black Crusade did, but we tried to make a couple of Black Crusades after that, and it just didn't happen. And we just kind of reached our place where we were able to move on from that. And it was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, and there is something, at least for me, like I started, we were doing a lot of festivals. We stopped doing festivals. We stopped doing, sport bands. And, for me, like I just started losing certainly with the festivals. Like I really started just losing connection with the audience. Like not that I could get everybody to hey and jump and circle pit and whatever. Like I could whip them into a frenzy, but I didn't feel a connection. Like I just was like, this is like, there's 20,000 people here and 2,000 of them are Machine Head fans, and there's 18,000 looky-loos who don't know or care. And we look at the record sales after, nothing. We look at the streams, nothing. We look at the merch sales. I was like, what are we doing? Like, I don't like to me, if there isn't, and then, like if there was a connection, it would be worth it. I don't care. I don't need all that to have that. I need the connection. Like I need that, and that's what, yes, we're playing, now we play, the last time we played London, we played to a 5,000 seater, and it was fucking incredible. You know what I mean? Like it was all 5,000 people there for us, there to enjoy all the songs. And it's like, that connection is so deep that is why I do it. People are just like, oh, you're stuck up, you don't want to help anybody out. I'm like, it's nothing to do with that. It's so selfish. What I need to get out of this, like I need to have that total like connection with an audience, because playing to a bunch of looky-loos doesn't do anything for me. Like it's not worth it. It's like playing to fucking strangers who are just standing in a fucking room. And I don't know. I mean, there's been some times when I've seen a band and they've blown me away and I went, oh wow, I got to check this band out. But like pretty far and few between. I don't know if that's what the audience is. I don't know. Like, the whole music industry's changed so much that I don't know if that's the case. So yeah, I don't know. Do you feel any of that ever?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely been. I mean, we've had it, especially like if I think of American
U.S. festivals.
Oh my God, dude, they're so bad. Like when I look at the American festivals, and it's chopped up by tiers of different kinds of seats, and there's people that are like here. There's like plastic chairs there, and then no one knows who the
fucking
hell.
Wisconsin. I know exactly. You're talking about the
there's 2 or 3
Rock USA
seated ones
in fucking Wisconsin.
There's
Where
two or
the
three
fucking-
of the seated ones.
They've got the VIP with all the white chairs, plastic together, that goes back like a quarter of a mile. Then they have a chicken wire fence with all of your fans and my fans all behind there because they can't afford the fucking $750 VIP. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Who wants this?
The last one, I can't remember which one it was, but it was like sectioned off. I called the crowd Splash Mountain. And I said, all right, everyone Splash Mountain over here. Because they're just, it's like a freaking Disney ride, man. Yeah, there's something about and American festivals, man. I've said it in a lot of interviews. Like when you go to European festivals, you at least have a room. You have a toilet like a human being. You have a shower. These American festivals, because we're always side stage, we're never on the main stage because we're not getting proper radio airplay to be given a main stage slot for some reason. So I do feel the frustration of the American festivals. And it's like, you get a porta potty and no dressing room and food is terrible and you have no rider and you are not allowed to go here, 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 here. It's like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Like where the European festivals, everyone gets the same thing. Like everyone gets treated well. And headliners get a little bit more. They get the compound, but
of course.
Yeah, it is frustrating. It is very frustrating. But you were saying that you tried a couple of the Black Crusades and this and that, but I feel like the ingredients of Black Crusade are Machine Head and Trivium. That's what the Black
of course
is.
Of course.
That's why it worked.
For sure.
But yeah, I think
Machine Head Trivium, one day when the pandemic is lifted, 2
Machine
or 4
Head
years
Trivium,
from now.
Machine Head Trivium Fit for an Autopsy. That's an arena tour.
That would be sick.
That's an arena tour in every continent.
That'd be a banger right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did a lot of dates too. We did that. We did Europe. We did Australia.
That was a crazy long tour. I mean, the Australian shows were huge too. Like I forget about how big the Black Crusade Australia was. That was like 5,000+, 5 to 10,000. I think
totally. The Riverside Theater or the whatever amphitheater, I forget what it's called, in Brisbane. I mean, it was fucking. It was
crazy.
raging.
It was crazy.
It was
crazy. Yes,
I have a lot of fond memories from the whole tour cycle that we did with you guys on that. Like
that was, it was a very fun tour. I loved it. A
lot of drinking, a lot of just hanging and eating, a lot of eating.
Yes. Eating is always. I love that when people think about Trivium, they think about food. That's my goal. I want people to think about food. I want them to be hungry when they think about us.
Right. You but you guys survived all that stuff, and you kind of, I don't feel like I don't feel like that same like hatred for you guys anymore. Like it seems like you've kind of gone into this, you've gone into like I don't want to say elder statements because you're not
on the mountaintop.
I mean, you are an elder statement now, even though you're probably, younger or maybe of the same age as a lot of like up and coming bands, even at this point, just because you started. That's
one of the funny things in the States. Like we're kind of making jokes about like metal, like your fans get it, our fans get it, but like general like rock public doesn't. I remember there was a station, I can't remember what city, some city in the States. We always kept hearing they wouldn't play us for some unbeknownst reason. And then finally they were asked again. They're like, those guys are still they're still around. I thought all those guys are in their 70s by now. And we're like, wait, we're too young. And now you think we're in our 70s. Like, what the hell? Like, we cannot do right. First, we're too young, and then we're way too old. So, yeah, I don't know. Damned if you do. But that's what's so good about your band and our band is that, like you were saying about the festivals, the thing that you felt, and that's the same thing I feel, and that's why we wanted our record out. That's why I want to do the streams. That's why I want to do the tours we do the way we do them. Is you guys, your fans are a lifestyle. They're lifer Machine Head fans. They love everything that you do. They consume everything that you do. Same thing with Trivium. And that's things that you don't see with too many bands. Like there's specific bands that have that. You guys have that. We have that. Maiden has that. Metallica has that. Amon Amarth has that. Behemoth has that. Like, I love that. And that makes it make so much more sense to me hearing that from you about the festival thing. And that's really, really cool. I think we're really lucky. And then I was also thinking too, you were talking about yoga. Someday, it shouldn't be like a PR thing, but it'd be pretty cool. You, me, Johan, and Nergal all do yoga. We're all very metal, and we all do yoga, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, does Johan do it too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. From Amon?
Yep. So I think that's very, very cool.
Right.
That's another 4-band bill that's a stadium bill? No, maybe
and then
not.
We just go, we get shit faced right after it.
Let's
do that. We'll do drunk yoga. We'll do shit faced yoga.
Just being inverted.
That'll be the better story.
Full of heavy alcohol. Oh man. Actually, I remember on this the Road Rage tour in 2004. Remember, this was back when we were in the conversion van, which we really screwed up. We should have toured in a passenger van, but for some reason we thought a conversion van was a good idea. A passenger van, we could have laid in the benches. That's when we had like no per diem and stuff like that. I remember just being starving, like, or just hungry all the time, like actually hungry. You invite us up on the bus one night for shots, and we're like drinking up there. I was like, oh man, like I hadn't eaten all day. I was like, man, I'm really like out of it. And I saw you guys, a fan had brought this entire plate of enchiladas, and I was like, can I have some of those? And you guys let me have some of them. So that probably saved me puking in your bus, and I appreciate
nice. That. Was there ever like a big party? Did Trivium ever go through like a giant party phase, like where you guys are like,
so brief. It was so brief, and I think that was probably another one of the things that fueled that hatred of us. There was a U.S. road rage. It was Trivium, Still Remains, 3 Inches of Blood, and Agony Scene, and that's when we were kind of in our party maniac phase. And I remember the label would always like call our manager up, and then Justin would confusingly send us an email or call us to be like, you guys, I'm hearing from the label you guys are partying too much. And we're like, I thought we're in bands, but he's like, I don't know. He just laughed. He's like, I don't know what to tell you. But so at that era was when we were kind of like, not it was like sex, booze, and rock and roll. Right. But it was very short lived. It was like,
who was the biggest slut in Trivium at that point? I would guess Corey. he doesn't even answer. He just kind of nods his head. Corey seems like the biggest slut, probably. Was there a slutty Matt Heafy face?
I don't think so. I
remember reading an interview, and I want to say it was
the Kerrang interview. Yep.
Right, yeah. Like you were kind of like bragging about the
debauchery
around.
Yes, and I remember
your grandma got really upset with you or something. Is this?
I don't know. She might have seen it, but I remember getting home at my parents' house, like, oh, look at this cover feature, and I'm like, you don't need to read the article, just look at the cover. Ashley, that's when we just started dating. Like after that came out, and she started flipping this. She's like, "You sound real fucking cool, don't you?" And I was just like, so yeah, it was short lived. It was basically Download 05 that snapped me out of all that. Download 05. And at Download 05, I remember waking up 45 minutes before the show in the main stage. We're like, there's nobody out there. It's cold and it's gray and it's English and it's just miserable looking. My voice sounds like crap. My nose is still bloody. So yeah, we were a little crazy back then. Voice sounded like
cocaine bloody.
Voice sounded like crap. I couldn't play my guitar. My guitar was out of tune. Our backdrop looks like a postage stamp. Our intro starts walking up on stage. Nobody there. 11 o'clock hits. Yeah, then 40,000 people come running up on the stage. I adrenaline blackout. Walk off the stage, and I hear that was the greatest show ever.
Blackout. What's that?
Yeah, like when you've got the adrenaline dump that it's so strong that you basically it's like you black out and just things go into muscle memory. The other time I've experienced it was the first time I competed in jiu-jitsu. I just got my blue belt. Now, the issue with competing with blue belt, which is really stupid of me, there are blue belts that have had it for a day, and there are blue belts that have been blue belts for 5 years. It's a very long belt that you stick on. So I basically got the blue belt. Like, I'm the shit. I'm going to go do this. I remember slapping hands, adrenaline blacking out, and the guy's 12-0, rear naked choking me. My face turns purple, and then I tap. So those are the 2 times that's happened. And at the Download time, when I walked off stage, everyone was like, that was the greatest show I've ever seen. I was like, I don't know what just happened.
I remember hearing about that show.
Yeah, so it was like an adrenaline blackout. And luckily, all the hours and time that I had put in, it was like muscle memory / survival mode that it just worked. And when I found out how well it went, because it shouldn't have went well, we should have been terrible and we should have just been stared at. I said, all right, I need to take this more seriously. It was right after that. I was like, if I want to do this, I can't just rely on instinct to just happen sometimes. That was the moment where I realized that we need to switch it around.
And stop sledding around.
Yes.
Or at least Matt Heafy made that decision.
Yes.
Corey might not have made that decision.
Yeah, Alex is married, I'm married, and Paulo is in a long-term relationship as well. Actually, Paulo just finally moved back down to Orlando, which I'm super excited about. He lived in Fort Lauderdale for a while, then moved to Chicago to be with his girlfriend, just like I moved to Chicago to be with who was my girlfriend at the time, is my wife now, when I was like 19-ish. And then he just made the trek down. He just got in a van and drove down. So now 3 of us in Orlando.
Well, so he moved back to Florida.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think he's like 2 minutes from me. Yeah, he's like down the street that way, which is awesome. Then Corey's awesome. 5 minutes from me. So we just got to drag Alex over here.
And Corey is single and ready to mingle still?
Yes. Check out his OnlyFans account is available now.
I don't think he'll ever change. He's been single and ready to mingle the whole time. I can't think of him ever having a girlfriend.
No, me neither.
In all the years I've known him. Yeah.
Good for him. He's got his guitar, he's got his sports, and he's good to go. I love it. And he's the only guy who's he's looked the same the whole time too. Like I've had a million looks, and he's had long hair and a goatee.
Yeah,
Love it.
He's got great hair too. He does.
He has always had fantastic hair. Yeah, he's our medieval Casanova.
He's the Jared of your band. He's the Jared of your band.
Yes,
with the great hair.
Yes. Those two dudes
likes to party, wants to hang out.
Everyone thinks he's a wrestler.
I had him on the podcast. He was great. He was all drunk.
He said he had an awesome time. He loved it. Everyone always thinks awesome. It's funny is people never ask him, "Are you in a band?" People always ask him if he's in the WWE. They never think he's a band guy. They seriously
Really?
like they'll see him and Mark Lewis walking around and they'll think that they're like WWE guys. He's never asked if he's in a band. It's always, "Are you a wrestler?" And then the question
that's so random.
Yeah, we never get questions, "Are you guys in a band?" We always get, "Are you guys tattoo artists?" Which I think is such a weird question. Like,
right?
Well, do you think I just tattooed myself, or it's? And then DJs. So we get like wrestler, DJs, or tattoo artists. It's never, people don't think about bands anymore. They think about everything else.
A DJ? They think you're a DJ?
Not me. I think they've asked a couple of us that before. Like, "Hey, are you guys DJs?" And I'm like, "What the hell?"
You DJs? Who they ask that to, Paulo?
Maybe. It's like, "Yeah, we smashed that space bar, man."
I wanted to go into your latest record, some of the lyrical content that has kind of interested me. Maybe it's just me reading into it, or I don't know what it is, but there's a couple of themes, there seems like there's a lot of like father son relationship dynamics. There's a lot of lyrics that even on Sin in the Sentence, there's some of that as well. And I was wondering, are you telling a story? Are you relating to your own relationship with your father? Is there like something in those lyrics there? Or
each one's different. Like, so every song would be from a different place. Like every song is typically like, we haven't had it be like a string of events. Paulo is also one of the main lyric and melody writers now in the band too. So he probably writes about 60 to 75% of the lyrics and vocal melodies actually nowadays. I believe you're probably referring to Scatter in the Ashes. Scatter in the Ashes.
Yes.
Corey came with the title.
He's fucking awesome.
Thank you. Actually, Corey started. So with this entire record, or with every song, it's usually one of the three. Paulo, Corey, or myself starts a riff or an entire song. Anything in between, we present that to everybody. We get in the jam room together, where it goes through 1 to 99% change for the four of us. Once we feel like it's done, then we get with Josh, 1 to 99% change, and then so it goes through those three phases. This record. What do you mean 1 to 9? What does that mean? 1 to 99% change. So let's say
it could change a little or a lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we do those three phases: individual, then the four, and then with Josh. So sometimes there's nothing, sometimes there's a lot. With Scattering, Corey came with the title. He started the music actually as well. I kind of altered some of the riffs. His grandmother had just passed away, and he had to go back up to Maine, where him and his dad and his mom and his extended family were actually literally scattering the ashes of his grandma. And so he came with that title, brought that to Paulo and Paulo wrote the rest of the lyrics to the song based off that event that Corey went through. So each one's kind of different. Each one will spark.
I kind of felt like there was some like father-son friction going on. At least that's what I gathered from the lyrics.
And that's what we also love too, because for us, there is no right or wrong answer necessarily. And for us, the fact that you saw that is awesome, because some of these ones, like Paulo wrote the lyrics, I'll tell him what I thought, and he didn't think that in the first place either. And he's like, "No, it's great that you saw that." So for us, like with the fans, we've been telling them to just whatever they feel like it is right. And there's no right or wrong, but we can say like the place where it initially came from. He might have some more of that in there, but which ones did I more so like? It depends on which ones I more so wrote that I can tell you exactly where it came from. But that's kind of where he got the idea from it.
Yeah. Didn't your dad managed your band at least initially, didn't he?
He did, yeah. So from like when I was 12/13 and I said, "Dad, I remember pointing at the TV, Metallica, Binge and Purge, Seattle. I said to my mom, I want to do that when I grow up. And my dad's like, I played guitar as a kid. And then he really like cultivated that. And he helped me start the production company when I was actually 13 years old to make sure like
production company. Yes. Jesus Christ.
MKH Productions. So we started that when I was 13. to like legally protect the band at shows and stuff
I
like
was
that.
just smoking weed for the first time and stealing booze out of my parents' liquor cabinet.
I was also in high school. I had OJT class, on the job training class, and he said,
Okay.
if you actually do this, I'm going to make sure you do this. You go home and you practice during these hours. I will write that that is your job. And so I actually had a class where I would go home during this hour. I'd have to practice, and my dad would sign off on that and be like, you practice during this time. This is his job. So he like super cultivated that. And he managed from like 13 till about early mid 20s. Around like 16, 17 is when we found an entertainment lawyer who's been managing me since then. Justin, he was originally an entertainment lawyer. They co-managed for a little while.
And then Justin.
Yep, he's awesome dude. And around that early mid 20s, my dad really wanted to step back and just be able to enjoy it as a dad versus being so attached and being in the middle of it. And so I think that's been really, really great.
That ever, was that ever like, you know, especially as you go into your teenager years, like to have your dad involved in all this shit that you're doing was, I would imagine that would be, I mean, when I was a teenager, I was like, me and my dad were just head to head. Like we, you know, I couldn't, and now I love it. I mean, I love him. We got past it, but like, I can't imagine having my dad involved in my fucking business. Like at that age, you know, 20 years old.
I was always used to him being there. Like he always got along super well with like the other band members. You know, he was like a dad or an older brother to them. And I do really respect the fact that like he was like a drill sergeant for the rehearsal. And you could see that now. Like maybe when I was a kid, it was really tough. Like, but what's interesting is my teenage years, they never had to set a curfew. They never had to set a making sure I'm home, making sure I'm doing my work. Cause I would basically get home, I would do all my work and I would play guitar. And that's like all I wanted to do. I was like, I want to practice with my band. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I'm sure there were times where we butted heads where I didn't maybe want to do like the manager, like because he would kind of have to be dad and a manager at times, and I'm sure that there were times where
that's a tough hat to wear, I would imagine, for him.
And yeah, because I even think of myself, like I mean, our kids are 19 months, so it's hard to imagine that. But if he didn't do that, like I don't know if I'd be as regimented, but I'm sure that it did make it difficult at times. Like when I'm sure it was difficult for him here and there, especially like when all of a sudden, like allowing me to spread my wings from when he decided to step back, like I'm sure that was a difficult thing to do, but luckily he's still just as supportive now as he's ever been. It's just, I feel like it's better that he gets to just enjoy it versus having to be plugged into it.
That's rad. Yeah. Right on. And is he still close by?
Yeah. Like 15, 20 minutes from here. And he came by, let's see, right when things started feeling like okay-ish, and we made sure they hadn't seen anybody. We made sure we hadn't seen anybody. They came over, and the kids love that he always picks up my guitar and very, very loudly plays and sings. Just super loud. But our kids love it now. When they were littler, they were like, they weren't ready for the noise, but now they love it. Now they love that he's just like strumming the hell.
What is he singing? What is your dad
just like
singing?
Strum the hell. It's like play the hell out of the acoustic guitar, like super loud. It's awesome.
But the main riff, will he sing though? Like country roads.
Yeah, more like classic rock stuff. Like it's always something different. But I remember when I was a kid, he'd always take me to the acoustic section of like every guitar store, and he'd always play Blackbird. That was the main riff he would always play for acoustic guitar. Yeah. So I'd always remember him playing that riff. Yeah,
amazing song.
But in the car,
you know what that song's about, right?
No.
That song is about the civil rights movement.
Really? I didn't know that.
That song is about, you know, Blackbird singing in the dead of night. It's about all the protests that were going on at the time in 1968 when they wrote that song, and they couldn't, you know, as a pop band or just even any band of that era, they couldn't come out and say, you know, all the stuff that they wanted to say. So they cloaked it in this, you know, go read the lyrics now that you know what that song is about and exactly what it's like, a straight up protest song that they wrote as this. Yeah.
I had no idea. That's
a really
incredible.
Powerful song.
That's incredible.
It's a really powerful song.
I should cover that tomorrow. that's incredible. I love it. Yeah,
because you probably know how to play it because your dad, right?
Yeah. And the CDs that we always had in the car were always the Beatles' White Album, Boston's first record, Van Halen's Greatest Hits 1.
Nice.
and Burning Red. Those were the ones we always had in the car, and then Black Album. Those were the ones that were always.
Dad liked the Burning Red?
Oh yeah, I mean, he's the one that took me to that. He took me to that Year of the Dragon show. Yeah, he took me there.
Oh shit, and that's crazy.
He got us seats upstairs at House of Blues to make sure I could see everything and hear everything. And I remember I'd never been to a show before where people were chanting before, and people were chanting Machine Fucking Head. And I'd never heard anything like that in my life, because the only bands I'd seen before that first show, I think, was Real Big Fish, the ska band. I was into ska first. Real Big Fish, then it was like Less Than Jake, and then it was Blink-182. And then I go to this other show, and it's like dark, and it's like ominous, and people are chanting Machine Fucking Head. Like, what is about to happen? Like that kind of like feeling of dread. Like, am I going to die right now watching this? And then the curtains open. I was like, this is so good. This is so good. And then I knew that I was like, I need to play live metal.
You're like, I need to stop playing ska riffs. On the up.
Yep. I was like, I'm gonna die.
That's pretty awesome. I had no idea. I had no idea that it was your dad who introduced you. That's awesome.
Yep. He took me to that show.
Your dad.
Oh yeah. He took me to that show. I still have the shirt.
The the other song that I wanted to bring up, and I thought about this because you posted this kind of during like everything that was going on in Lafayette Square recently here. For anybody who's listening to this in the future, we've been going through 3 weeks now of protests in the wake of the George Floyd murder, and and a million other Black people murdered at the hands of the police. And I saw you've been pretty quiet about it, but I noticed that you posted The Defiant at one point, and I listen to those lyrics, and if you want to keep them ambiguous to your fans, I understand, but to me those were always very much about, they seemed to be very much about the state of the world, our current leaders, stuff like that. And, I just wanted to, we haven't really talked about that, but because it's like, it's such an important part of our world right now, especially, 3 months of the coronavirus leading into, these videos that are fucking horrific. I mean, horrifying. The Ahmaud Arbery murder at the hands of white supremacists, the George Floyd at, on his knee on throat for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. These images that are burned into our collective psyche at this point, and the fucking rage and anger that has come out of it and exploded across the world, really, at this point.
Absolutely. For me, I've always wanted to put these in our lyrics and be very, very direct. And that right when this stuff started happening, I did post not just Defiant, but the first song I posted was Contempt Breeds Contamination. That's a song off the Crusade. It's a song basically that echoes the exact same story of what we're seeing, what we've been seeing. It's about a man named Amadou Diallo, who was racially profiled, essentially executed, had absolutely nothing on him other than his wallet. It was also mistaken identity. So that song was early on about racial profiling and about people in power, like taking advantage of that. The Ones We Leave Behind is also obviously very much so about the systemic racism and issues that have been rampant in our society. It's things that, what I like about our band is that we've always been able to put it into song. We've always been able to put our message unhidden within song. A song like Declaration. Let me get the exact lyrics as we're talking about it. I should know my own lyrics, but I want to make sure I don't misquote right now. My favorite line of that song that we did on 2004. Fuck their ways, it's time to break free. Fuck their hate, acceptance is what we need. Equality for every race, sex, sexuality, and every choice to live our lives. Until you bigot, cretin, ignoramus, mind your own goddamn fucking business. And I feel like that was so important to have that in early on. And Crusade.
What was that on Crusade?
That was on Ascendancy. That song's called Declaration.
Okay.
So that song very early on fought for, that showed that we are against sexism.
I mean, that's pretty like, that's awesome. I mean, I don't think I ever I don't know if I translated all of those specific lyrics to it. That's awesome.
Thank you. And a song like, so I made sure I only posted songs that were specifically that would relate to that. So Contempt Breeds Contamination being about Amadou Diallo, Declaration being kind of like our open defiance of any kind of discrimination. Ignition, I've always loved that our leaders preach, if we disagree, we're the traitors of society. Homophobia, racism, sexism, our system breeds supremacy. The idea of supremacy kind of leaking downwards and creating a lot of these issues, and that was just really important to me, and put that in there. Drawn Toward Thunder is the idea of rebelling against oppressive powers that be that maybe try to push their agenda down your throat. So I'm very happy that with the music, we've always put that out there. We've always had that out there. And I feel like that's why the fans that have always known exactly the way we feel about this. And I just wanted to reiterate with using the music, because like where I couldn't think of words to like describe how horrified I am and how wrong that I know this is, and that I know that everyone needs to know this is, just putting those songs back out there. Like, this is the message. This is the art. This is why we've always put our message, or put exactly how we feel into our songs. We've never felt like we've had to hide it or use different messages or even cover it. Like Declaration and Ignition, I think, are two of the strongest ones that don't hide at all. Also, with this being Pride Month, we have a song off the Crusade about Matthew Shepard, who was a gay man who was tied to a fence and killed because of his sexuality. That song's called "And Sadness Will Sear." That's also on the Crusade. So we've written very specifically about these things and just kept it in the music.
Is what lyrics from the Defiant would quantify into what we're talking about?
I feel like the entire message,
the whole song.
Yeah, the whole song for sure. I feel like Defiant and Ones We Leave Behind really apply to that situation. Catastrophist obviously works really well now. Shadows in the Stones works really well.
I thought so too. When I said the Catastrophist, you never know. Like, I gotta ask, because like, it's fucking, we're in such a crazy time. I've been very vocal about the way I feel about Trump, and probably lost some fans over it, and frankly don't fucking give a shit. But I always feel like everybody wants.
Yeah, I always feel like everyone should be able, like, that mentality of people that say bands just stick to what they do good at. Just stick to the guitar. Just stick to singing. Just stick to what you do best. While these people are free to say exactly what they want to say on their social medias. And for me, art is specifically exactly for that. And I feel like art shouldn't be for anything else. Art should be for exactly how we feel and how we believe, and what we believe in and what we love and what we don't love. And it needs to be in the music, and it needs to be just out there. And if people disagree, we've got plenty of songs that tell them exactly how we feel, both your band and my band. And I was on Will Putney's charity fundraiser yesterday, and we were talking about that as well. And I was saying that it's been so great because bands like Fit and bands like Trivium have always put those messages exactly how we feel about society and discrimination, and how it is not right and how it is wrong. And that for our fans that just want to listen to music when they drive or when they go to the gym, that's fine. But fans that want to dig further, I'm very happy that bands like us provide a good message. And I feel like good message is to be accepting of all that don't hurt another walk of life. And for anything that does, we need to protect that, and we need to know that that's wrong, and we need to be champions to fight against that.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, I'm trying to think of another band that has sang in metal, at least, about, even Machine Head. I don't think we've even done that. It's like, you stepping over that line and bringing homophobia and, respect everybody's sexuality. That doesn't really happen, dude. That doesn't happen in metal. Like, I'm literally at a loss. I think I've referenced it. I referenced it in the song Slanderous, but, not in any way near the clarity that you did, or even having a song about somebody, a gay man who was stripped. And, that's good for you, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I feel like that record,
ballsy choice.
Thank you. I feel like that record was completely, like, people just talked about the music. I feel like the lyrics were overlooked in the grand scheme of things. The Trivium fans have always known, but that record was so sociopolitically important, in my opinion. And it was overlooked, but I'm really happy that we got to talk about it. And I hope more people start to realize, because I was able to tell Will about that. Will didn't know. I was able to tell you about that. But Contemporaries Contamination is just, I remember reading that story and knowing that there are more stories like that. But I felt like that one was the one that I was like, I have to write about this. I have to write exactly about this. And that's what that song is about. That song's about, again, Amadou Diallo.
Yeah. Most people I know have like that gay cousin. I have two gay cousins. So my cousin Ronnie and then my cousin Stacy are both gay. And I've known they were gay for, since we were really young. My cousin Ronnie, I grew up, I'm adopted. So my parents couldn't have kids, but my the rest of my family was so chaotic that my cousins would come and live with us for, months at a time, long periods of time. So I'd go from being, an only kid to, having 4 brothers and sisters, like, whoa, like, for like a long time. And then they'd go away, or one would stay with us. And so my house was constantly like in this flux of who was living there. And, it's funny because, my cousin Ronnie used to practice kissing on me. like he would like, I'm practicing to kiss girls. And I was like, when you're 3rd grade or 4th, like not thinking anything of it. But, it's fun. I'm just curious, like, do you have that gay cousin who great person, great, I don't know if everybody has that. I mean, I would assume that everybody does.
Yeah, I mean, I have some extended family members that are, and then I grew up having some friends that were kind of like openly gay with their own friends in like high school and middle school. And I was always just I looked at them just like I would anyone else. So they were always around. I think that's one of the things that I find now in society, where people that didn't grow up with people like that around was difficult. Because another thing like that I am always a champion for as well is trans rights, and for trans people and for everyone. Like I would say, it's acceptance of every walk of life, that everyone who believes that this is the way I am, this is the way I feel, whether it's from something from birth or for something you feel that maybe birth didn't have it right, and then you're able to fix that later in life. So I think in a world where my kids are even older, it's going to be more prevalent that they're going to have more acceptance of all walks of life, that it won't even really be thought of. Whereas when I was a kid, maybe some things were a little bit different, but now I feel like it's so much more accepting because people are able to see it. But in places where it's like more repressed and people aren't able to be themselves, I feel like that's where we see that discrimination set place, because it's something, it's that unfamiliarity. It's that something that's foreign, something that's alien to them. So I've thankfully always been able to grow up like rather like not super diverse, but like diverse enough to always know that everyone is an equal to me. And I've always felt that was the way to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of division in the world right now, in America in particular. And how do we get out of this mess, Matt Heafy?
I think we keep putting the right examples in what we do. You and I are fortunate that we have a voice, and that our voice is something that is good. Like, I'm not a perfect person, but I know the example that I can lead for those who want an example. I know that I'm a good role model for them. I'm not a perfect person, but at least the messages that I put in my music and the fundamental core values of how I live and how I believe. And I believe that everyone just wants to live and love and to be loved, and we all deserve that. And the only way we can have that is if we allow everyone else to have those same, that same kind of lifestyle, that same kind of life where we're able to love and to be loved. And so I look at it as a responsibility that through our songs for people who want to learn, that we can teach them a good message through our music, or a good message through the way we are and the way we conduct ourselves and the way we speak and the way we treat other people. So I just hope that keeps continuing. Like, I know that I'm very fortunate that the majority of the Trivium audience and 99 to 100% of my Twitch audience, we all have those same values because we are able to talk about that. It's more like I think it's more like not religious at all, but more of like a congregation of people and a community of people that all share the same values. And it's something where I could be more free to, like, even more free to speak because I've got more time to speak with them. So it's just about spreading that message. And it's creators like you and I that know what I say is right and what you say is right. It's like, I believe that, and I know that what we're saying is correct because we're fighting for equality for people. And us having that good message and that good core value, we need to keep spreading that in our music and in what we do, and showing people that is the way to live here. That is the way to live this life.
Awesome. Matt Heafy, thank you for being on No Fucking Regrets.
Thank you so much, Rob. So good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, you too, man. And congratulations on a fucking masterpiece.
Thank you.
Masterpiece.
That means so much to me, man. Like, I grew up with your music, and that means everything, man. So thank you so much.
Yeah, keep rocking, brother.
Awesome, man. I hear my kids calling for me. They're yelling.
Yes. Take it easy, Twitch subs.
All right, Rob. Love you, man. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
All right, brother. Take it easy.
I'll talk to you soon, Rob. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Matt Heafy from the mighty Trivium.
No fucking regrets!
With Robb Flynn.